today I want to tell you a quick little story about the law of attraction, which is something I'm very passionate about, as well as beauty, food, well-being, but especially with attracting what you want in your life. And this little story is about tomatoes. Now, I have an herb garden. I love to cook. I love food. I think food is fuel, and it's great to eat healthy and be well, but I also think it should taste good, because nobody's going to want to eat it if it doesn't taste good. So I planted an herb garden, and in the herb garden I have all kinds of different things. And, I just always had mentioned to my husband that I would love to have a tomato plant. I travel a lot. I'm very busy with what I do in my real life, and so cooking for me is more therapy and something that I enjoy. It's about being healthy, but it's also about flavor, and I want to put something on the table that my 3 and 6 year old are going to enjoy. So herbs are something that I use when I'm cooking to flavor food. You don't have to use as much salt. It tastes good. But I really would like to have a garden. I just don't want to do all the work, surrounding in having a garden. And I also don't have a lot of space since I live close to the city. I don't have a lot of space for that. But I've always wanted to have tomatoes. And so I would talk about it all the time. I would ask my husband, do you think we could have a tomato plant? Would it be too much work with my travel schedule? Is it going to die because I don't water it? Am I going to kill it because I water it too much? I wouldn't say I have a green thumb when it comes to plants, but I like having them around. And so probably for a whole year, I talked about tomatoes. I would ask people about them. Well, what do you do? How do you, I know you got to have a stake and, do some stuff special for tomatoes. You don't just stick it in the ground, right? This is what I'm thinking. So I would go to the farmer's market and I would look at the tomato plants. I would talk about the tomato plants. I would tell him almost on a weekly basis, I would really love to have a little tomato plant and look at that. But I felt like I needed to look it up or research it, or somebody needed to show me how to plant a tomato plant, and I really don't have time to research it. And so I was just waiting while I was thinking about and appreciating every time I saw tomato plants at the farmer's market, and thinking about and appreciating it. So one day I was with some landscapers in my backyard, and we were talking about the herb garden. I was making sure they knew not to pull up my herbs, but pointed at what I thought was a weed. I had just planted some fennel, some cilantro, some basil, things that are seasonal that I wanted to have for this year. So I'm planting these things, and I tell him, this is a weed. You'll want to pull this one up right here. And he said, he spoke Spanish. No, es chiquito tomates. I'm like, and I speak a little Spanish, and I said, no, es no posible, because I don't have any tomatoes. It's not possible. I didn't plant tomatoes. I planted fennel, and I planted, I showed him the things that I planted, and he said, no, that's chiquito tomates. I said, okay, we'll leave it, and we'll see if that's tomatoes. I'm the only one who plants in my herb garden, no one else. So for me to think about that, I'm like, well, let's just see. But I knew in the back of my mind I really wanted a tomato plant, so I was kind of giggling, like, if that's a tomato plant, that's going to be very interesting. So as time goes by, I keep checking outside in the herb garden, and you would not believe it. All of a sudden, these little chiquito tomates start growing. And I just was marveled at the fact that there were little tomatoes growing in my herb garden that I did not plant. So let me explain to you how these tomatoes manifested from the heavens. When you want something, the law of attraction states that you ask, it is given every time. What your job is to receive that and let that come in. And what that means is when you're praying and you say, this is something that I want, thank you for blessing me. You give thanks because you know that it has been done, that it is on its way. You cannot want to have a tomato plant but notice the absence of it. And so I never talked about, I don't have time to plant tomatoes. I don't have money to buy tomatoes. It was something that I wanted and was excited about, having that experience of actually having tomatoes. So it's energy. Your thoughts have energy. And when I'm at the farmer's market, I'm looking at herbs to plant, and I'm looking at which fennel plant that I'm going to plant, or basil plant, and I'm looking, my hand goes to the one that actually has tomato seeds in. That's the only thing that we could think of how it actually happened, that it had either a tomato plant in there or it had tomato seeds in there. So when I planted the fennel, it actually grew a tomato plant right beside of it, because I had asked and was very excited about tomatoes and wanted to have tomatoes, and that's how it came to be part of my experience. So the lesson that came out of all of this, I think, is to want what you want and know it's on the way, and that somehow the universe will bring that to you. at the right time, the right place, the right people, everything will work out as long as you only expect what you want, not the absence of it. Thank you for watching my video. If you want to see more, read more, please visit my blog. It's lauralaire.com. I'm also on social media, Google+, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter. Would love to get to know you. And also, if you have a great story that you want me to see or that you want to share, if you'll tag me in your post, Laura Laire, and also tag Little Tomatoes, I would love to see and hear about your favorite story for Law of Attraction.